Do you feel like you're on the cusp of your spiritual breakthrough? If you're reading this, there's a chance your intuition is telling you that your breakthrough is near. But how can you really know? These 10 signs suggest your spiritual breakthrough is closer than you think. When you have a desire to be alone. Now we live in a world of 8 billion people. There is no shortage of people to get to know or spend time with. If you see company out, in other words, it's very easy to spend our time with other people. If that's what we want to do. This is the case for a lot of people. You see, many people can't stand the idea of being alone. It terrifies them. People don't like being alone because it causes them to sit with and confront their fears and thought. They can feel as though they have nowhere else to run. But on the other hand, if you have a desire to be alone, it might suggest that you are on the cusp of breaking through. I believe it's no accident that you feel like you want to be alone. In my experience, I can sometimes find myself thinking, I'm a little odd for wanting to be alone, and that I should want to be around other people. But you shouldn't feel bad or weird for wanting to be alone. It's courageous, not weird simply put. It's courageous to sit with your feelings and to confront what's going on internally for you. It takes a lot for a person to honestly look at themselves and try to grow. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're feeling called to spend a lot of time alone, it might be because it's what needs to happen for your development. It might be that it's time for you to level up in a big way spiritually. This might mean finding more purpose in a sense of direction in your life than you've ever experienced. In other words, you could be about to have a massive spiritual breakthrough, and your life is about to change in ways you couldn't anticipate. You might be feeling waves of despair. When you're on the cusp of a breakthrough, it's normal to feel a sense of despair and even sadness. You might feel like it comes on suddenly and just doesn't go anywhere. In my own experience, before my breakthrough, I was feeling really a lack of hope and sense in life. I felt pretty apathetic, and I just kept thinking, what's the point? It was as though I couldn't find any meaning in the things I was doing. I don't mean I felt like, what's the point with living? But I could feel myself thinking, am I wasting my time on things that don't matter? I would often think, what's the good of this thing I'm doing? In other words, I was carrying around a feeling that I was just giving my energy to the wrong things, and I felt disillusioned. What's more, I couldn't shake this feeling. Wherever I went, it followed. I couldn't seem to move past this feeling of despair, and I couldn't run away from it. You see, I couldn't see through the clouds, and it was as though there wasn't any light at the end of the tunnel. If you're feeling like this, trust that something big is about to happen in your life. Here's the thing. The questioning and despair won't last forever, and it arrives just before a massive breakthrough. It's necessary to go through all of these motions in order to have the big, life-changing breakthrough that you really want in your life. I suggest keeping a journal so you can see how you're feeling in the moment and refer back to it at a later date. 3. You want to look after yourself. Our modern world is full of things that aren't good for us. Eating junk food, drinking alcohol, and even taking drugs are normalized. In our culture, they're seen as just having a bit of fun. Simply put, people don't feel like they're doing something radical if they want to eat a cheeseburger and drink a few beers. In fact, it's encouraged, as it's seen as enjoying yourself. What's more, people who are really healthy, or sometimes even called health nuts, or fitness freaks, you could say that being unhealthy is almost seen as being more normal than eating fruits and vegetables. But if you're on the cusp of a spiritual breakthrough, this is not how you'll be feeling. It will be the exact opposite. I can tell you from experience that all of the things I used to enjoy doing, such as drinking red wine and eating fries, fell away as I moved towards a more spiritual path. In my experience, I just didn't feel like they resonated with the person I was becoming. I suddenly gained a new perspective on the things as I was near to my spiritual breakthrough. Not only did I want to stop drinking copious amounts of red wine like I used to, but I wanted to stop eating meat and to cut back on all the sugar that was in my diet. I won't lie, there were people who thought I was being a bit extreme, but I felt like it was extreme to be filling my body with junk food. Truth is, there were people that were judging me for my decisions to eat healthier foods, such as more whole foods and grain. They didn't understand why I decided against all of the mass-produced foods that surround us. What does this mean for you? If you're feeling like you want to get rid of junk foods and toxins, and to look after your body in a way that you haven't before, it could signal that you're near to your spiritual breakthrough. Now you should not let other people put you off from this path because they don't understand your intentions. and what you see for your life. Remember, it's your life, and you get to choose how you want to live. If you want to give yourself healthier foods, do it and enjoy doing it, for you're feeling out of touch with reality. To sure sign that your spiritual breakthrough is near. If you're feeling like you're out of touch with reality, by this what I mean is that you can't get on board with the way things are around you. Maybe you're finding it hard to accept the status quo in the way that many people live their lives, which, let's be honest, includes lots of numbing. Truth is, people numb themselves by watching hours of television and scrolling through social media, or eating and drinking things that aren't any good for them. Maybe you used to do these things too, but now you're finding it hard to wrap your head around this way of being. I had this exact experience before my big spiritual breakthrough. There were so many reasons why I felt out of touch with reality as it is, and I spent so much time wondering why people were all right with it. I literally wanted to scream wake up to people around me, but then I realized it wasn't my place. Now if you can see yourself in the things I'm saying, it's because change is afoot in your life, and you're going to align with the right people and situations that are needed for you to have your breakthrough. Don't stress, but surrender to this, knowing simply put, things have a way of working themselves out. On the right, people and situations do present themselves. 5. You're feeling a sense of oneness. We live in a world that is divisive. Unfortunately, it's just how it is. People have various opinions that create division. It's historically always been like this, and even though we might feel like we're moving towards a more unified world, there's still a lot of division. There are many people that think they're better than others, and many groups who think they're superior. People might think they're better than another because they have more wealth and status, more fame, or even because of their race. It's sad that the world is like this, and that it continues to be like this. Wherever you grew up in the world, you've likely seen the divisiveness that exists in this world. What's more, many people are more complicit than they realize. The unconscious bias we all can have can cause us to feel like we're better than others, without even being conscious of it. I'll be honest, there have been times when I've looked at a homeless person and thought, I'm better than them. Truth is, I've not only done this to homeless people, I found myself judging people and thinking, I'm better than them for numerous reasons. Generally, I found that I've done this to protect myself. It's as though I've told myself that I'm better than others, to make myself feel better when I felt vulnerable. This included everyone from homeless people and people in the same line of work as me. I would find myself listing all of the reasons I'm better than them in my head, but this started to change as I got closer towards my spiritual breakthrough. There came a point where I felt like I needed to stop thinking I was better than others. I stopped comparing. I stopped looking for their faults, stopped sending bad vibes their way. Simply put, I came to realize that we're all the same. I started to realize that we are all in this together, and we're all connected. What does this mean for you? If you're going through these feelings, it's a big indication that your breakthrough is on its way. Sit tight and know that it's a beautiful thing to feel, as though we're all connected, and no one is better than the next person. 6. You've become aware that life is short. Now, anyone can say that life is short, but something happens when you're on the verge of a spiritual breakthrough. Rather than just saying, life is short, and not really acknowledging this reality, you really start to connect with the fact that life is actually short. You start to realize that you're not going to go on forever, and it causes you to see the world a little differently. In my experience, when I connected to the fact life is truly short, and that years fly by, I started living radically differently. Instead of putting off the things I wanted to do, and thinking that there's always next year, I started doing things. After my spiritual breakthrough, I started traveling more, and reaching out to new people. I realized life was too short to not have inspiring friendships, and to see the places I'd always dreamt about. Simply put, I started living in a way that I hadn't before. So if you feel as though you've become acutely aware of how short life is, get excited by this, knowing it's nothing to fear. Instead, connect with this, as it will propel you to do all of the things you've always wanted to do. However, one thing I have to say is that it's necessary to be mindful that other people around you might not be at the same place as you. By this I mean, people might not really connect with the fact life is short, and be living in a different way to you that you don't agree with. But you have to remember that it's not up to you to change them, and if they want to change how they live, they will. This brings me onto the work Red Ian does. He talks about the toxic side of spirituality, and how some people who consider themselves to be spiritual are actually embodying traits of judgment, and they can think they're better than others. In this free masterclass, he emphasizes the need to not go down this route, and to instead focus on yourself. Even though I feel like I'm already quite far along in my spiritual journey, it helped me to really check in with myself, and to honestly reflect on how much I judge others. And it meant that I brought the focus back to me. In 3 words, it was liberating. 7-year questioning. The script you've bought in life so far. Something happened to me just before my big spiritual breakthrough that I'll always remember. I woke up one day with a pit in my stomach that said, "You're not living out your potential." Now, if I'm honest, it was a feeling I've been carrying around for years. But on this day, I really felt it. In other words, I truly connected to the feeling that I needed to do something very different with my life, because I realized this wasn't me living out my full potential. I realized that somewhere along the line, I had bought into a limitation that was stopping me from stepping into my potential. This feeling came on intensely, and I found myself sitting with the fact that I accepted a script about how life was supposed to be. I had a job that paid me a slip each month. I had a circle of friends. I had a flat with a boyfriend. Essentially, I realized I had done all of the things I was supposed to, but it dawned on me that I wasn't connected to my full potential, and that there were other things. I felt like just punching the clock, paying the bills, and being stuck in a loop of having little money couldn't be the answer. I knew there had to be another way. So what did I do? And what can you do if you feel like this? I started to journal. When this feeling came on, I wasted no time in writing down my thoughts about how I felt like I bought a script all of my life, and I looked at the thoughts on paper. In doing that, I gave them a voice, and I released them. I literally let them go. It also meant that I truly checked in with these feelings, and I made a pact to not let the script govern my life anymore. In my opinion, what's so great about having a spiritual breakthrough is that you say no to the things that don't serve you anymore. As you step into the new age, you have a greater desire to be in nature. Many of us have access to beautiful nature spots, even if that's in the city, but that doesn't mean that people actually spend much time in nature. I used to spend all my time either on a train, in an office, or in a bar. I was so disconnected to myself at one point in my life. Maybe it's been the same for you. Truth is, it's how a lot of people experience the whole of their lives. But as I got closer to my spiritual breakthrough, how I spend my time changed. I replaced time inside, in buildings, with time and nature. This was partly because I moved to a new area where I had access to the beach, in the forest. But even when I returned to the area I used to live in, I found myself gravitating to spending time on walks in the park. You see, I felt like the only place I wanted to be was nature. It meant that I could have peace and quiet, and connect with myself, without the distractions of other people. Now that I'm on the other side of my spiritual breakthrough, I realize how important it was to spend all of that time in nature. It allowed me to forge a new relationship with myself, and to learn to get comfortable being with myself. In silence 9, you're dropping labels. As we go through life, we pick up labels. These labels put us in categories and boxes, so other people can understand us. It might be that you're a certain type of person, such as a creative or musical person. What's more, we embody and cling to these labels ourselves. It's what our ego does in order to keep us safe. Simply put, labels allow us to help find our place in the world, and they can help us to feel like we belong. Some people don't see having labels a bad thing, and I can see why. People can find comfort in them, as I used to myself. But this will certainly change after you go through a spiritual breakthrough. Here's the thing, as you move through your spiritual breakthrough, you'll realize that there's more to life than the labels we give ourselves and accept. In other words, you realize that you are not a label. For instance, you are not a hairdresser, a chef, or a journalist. You are a human being who is more than that. Sure, we all have skills in certain areas, but we shouldn't define ourselves solely on them. 10. You feel resistance increasing. This final one is a big one. Now resistance really makes itself known as you're right on the cusp on your spiritual breakthrough. Despite going through all of the motions, such as dropping labels, having more discipline, and putting healthy foods in your body, you will still come up against resistance. It goes a little like this. Just as you feel like you're about to break through to something new, you'll very likely feel like you just want to turn around and go back to the oldie. You want to sprint. In my experience, I felt like I wanted to run back down the road I had come from, to what I knew. You see, I began romanticizing that old version of myself, and thinking it wasn't all that bad. In other words, I began romanticizing what I knew to be familiar. But the thing is, the road behind you disappears, and there's nowhere to go but forwards, down the road in front of you. Get excited. This path is liberating, and it's one that will never get boring. Love yourself first, and everything else falls into place. It may sound conceited or narcissistic to focus on loving yourself first, but it's not. The point isn't to believe you're better than others, or to accept things about yourself that you really do need to change. It's about developing a healthy and nurturing relationship with you. Loving yourself is about committing to who you are, understanding the many different nuances to your identity, and showing yourself a level of care and intimacy that we usually reserve for other people. Unfortunately, we're not taught how to love ourselves from an early age, and we end up caring about what others think of us, rather than focusing on what we needed, a more fundamental level. It's a must-watch, and we couldn't recommend it more highly. Did you like my article? Like me on YouTube to see more articles like this in your feed.